Hi, this is Lindsey speaking from the Stop the War Coalition in London. I'm very, very sorry I can't be with you in Washington in person this weekend, and I wish you every success for your conference. I've also got somebody that you may have come across before, Jeremy Corbyn, who's the leader of the Labour Party now, the leader of the opposition in Britain, but who has a tremendous record, as I'm sure you're all aware, as an anti-war and pro-peace campaigner over many, many years now. So Jeremy, maybe you'd like to say a few words.
Well, thank you, Lindsay, and I'm really sorry that I can't be at the conference either, because the 24th is the opening of our annual Labour Party conference in Liverpool, and indeed the election result for a leader will be declared on the morning of the 24th. And I want to say thank you to all those people I've worked with over many decades on peace campaigning. They have taught me a great deal about the realities of war and a great deal about the possibilities of peace. And so I hope your conference goes really well. We need foreign policies based on human rights, based on bringing about greater equality and justice around the world, and respect for all faiths and all communities. We marched against the Iraq War in 2003, not because we were supporters of the regime of Saddam Hussein, but because we didn't want a war in the region and what we felt would be a decade or decades of subsequent wars and instability. And we look now across the piece, and it's a very difficult situation. There has to be a political settlement in Syria, there has to be support for the refugees, but also there has to be determination around the world for a world order that looks for peace, and there has to be a determination to bring about a nuclear-free world. Hence, support is necessary for the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and look for different ways of bringing about real security. Real security is when people have got homes, got jobs, got schools, got hospitals. Real security is when we deal with the issues of environmental destruction and unsustainability around the world. I know your conference will concentrate on all of these things, and in those great traditions of the American peace and anti-war movement, you will bring people together, because on all sides of the Atlantic, and indeed all over the world, we have to work together for peace, just as we marched together against the Iraq War in 2003.
I'd just like to add a few words from what Jeremy said, and maybe ask him a couple of questions. Firstly, we've seen recently the escalation of tensions again around Korea, which I'm sure is of great concern to everybody at the conference. We've had the testing of missiles by North Korea, but also the threat now from South Korea, which has released plans about how it will be prepared to destroy whole cities, the whole capital of North Korea. And these are times, we live in very, very dangerous times. We have, as we speak, there's talk about a ceasefire in Syria, but we know this is only the beginning of a deadly, of trying to end this deadly conflict which has been going on, and which doesn't show massive signs of being able to do so. We also know the role of the various imperial powers in these countries, and we also have the question of nuclear weapons, which I know is very, very important to your conference this weekend. We've had a debate over Trident in Parliament, where we lost the vote for the to stop the renewal of Trident, despite Jeremy's best efforts and the best efforts of a number of MPs. So there are those questions. I suppose what I'd like to just ask Jeremy to comment on before, just to bring this to a halt, is how, if Jeremy, if you were, and we hope you will be in government, we hope you'll be a Prime Minister. I won't comment on who might be the next President of the United States, because obviously that's a decision for you, and maybe not a particularly happy one when you look at the record of both of them on war and peace. I'd just like to ask you, Jeremy, what do you think as a Prime Minister you would do? What would be your steps towards bringing about a more peaceful world?
First of all, there is obviously a crisis in Korea, across the Korean Peninsula and across the region. I would urge rapidly reopening of the six-party talks, rapidly moving towards demilitarisation of the Korean Peninsula and the whole region. That is a huge, very, very long-term objective, but immediately the reopening of the six-party talks has to be an important step forward, and making the Non-Proliferation Treaty a force that can deal with this. There are problems because Korea is not a signatory to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, but the six-party talks, working in parallel with them, can help to bring that about. And Lindsey's right that in the situation in Syria at the moment, it is clearly incredibly dangerous. There is a refugee crisis. Hundreds of thousands have been displaced or killed because of this war. And there has to be a humanitarian response to the refugee crisis, a ceasefire that means something and lasts, and a political settlement in Syria that recognises the faith and ethnic diversity of the country and ensure that there is a place for all of those groups.